Welcome back to The Company Move, where we explore what life outside the film and television industry could look like by talking to folks who have made the leap. I'm your host, Rennie Pollack, a union camera assistant living and working in Chicago, Illinois. I'll be learning and growing along with you. It's season 2, y'all. Company's on the move. Daisun Cohn-Williams, welcome to The Company Move.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So excited to have you today. You're a little bit different guest than what we're used to, but on the same wavelength a little bit. Daisun's on more as an expert today than a company mover, although he has done his own company moving, and I'll let him tell us about that. So, Daisun, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm an Aries.
Okay.
Like on walks on the beach, you know what I'm saying?
He's not available, ladies. He's
Not
not available.
about to be a dad. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New York City in the 80s and 90s, and it's true. I did do sort of my own company move, and I've done it in reverse, and then I've done it in both ways. So
Mhm.
I was teaching high school in New York City in the earlier part of the century. Weird to say, right?
We're all from the 1900s. One could say the late 1900s.
I grew up in Greenwich Village, in the West Village, and in the Bronx. I would go up and down between my parents, and went to high school in Chelsea for part of high school, and then I left, and I was in a boarding school in Massachusetts playing basketball and getting ready for college. Then I was in college in Massachusetts. I was in grad school in Massachusetts, and
All right.
left Massachusetts.
Yes.
That was my first move. Got the heck out of the cold. And I got back to New York and it was still cold. So,
Yeah.
but I taught high school for several years in New York. And I found myself stopping and starting and stopping and starting because I think it wasn't right for me. I started feeling like all of my creative energy was going towards other people. And I had been in an off-Broadway theater company as a teenager in New York. I performed on, famous stage. I've been to the Cherry Lane Theater. I've been on that stage before. I've been, in different parts of off-Broadway. Uh, and I wanted to be creative. I was also focusing on writing in college. So I loved working with teenagers. I'd been doing it, even before I was a teacher, coaching basketball, doing leadership camps, stuff like that, summer camp counseling. But it's a very demanding life, and it wasn't for me.
Got it.
So that sort of led me out to California, and I was tired of being cold. I started getting back into acting, and I wasn't pushing myself, and I needed a change. And everyone was moving to LA. I mean, this was like 2009.
That's when I moved to LA.
You
Or
too.
no, wait. Sorry, I moved to the West Coast. I didn't move to LA until a little bit later, but 2009 was an exodus from it was freaking cold. Like I'd rather be warm somewhere than
Exactly.
broke somewhere where it's warm than
Yeah,
broke where I'm in
right,
the
right.
cold.
And in fact, I had unemployment when I moved out here. So it was good to help me get started and figure out. And in fact, the day that my unemployment ended, I had just gotten back from New York. I think it was like January 3rd or something, and maybe like 2011. And I was so sick. I had like 104 fever, and I looked and I was like, oh my God. And I'm like looking for jobs on Craigslist while I'm like dozing off because I'm so sick. And I get a call from a casting agent, and she's like, you booked this commercial for Toyota. You booked it, but we're going to use your callback. So you don't even have to shoot. You're just going to you're already good. And I was just like,
That's amazing.
universe have my back. And honestly, I found that happens quite often in life, but it was amazing. So that was sort of my first year of LA, ended with like this beautiful gift.
Was that your first like booking?
It was my first, I've been booking like independent, like little things, web series and short films that I found myself.
Sure.
But this was my first like official booking,
First
set a
commercial.
job, paid money. And not only that, the casting director was like, I see you don't have an agent. I know this kind of stinks, but if you want to give these guys like 10% to finish the negotiation of your contract, I guarantee you they'd want to pick you up. And I got signed with Diverse,
Nice.
which a couple of years later, went under from someone was embezzling money, and that was a whole
Of
thing.
course. That always happens,
But
apparently.
it was a great start. It was like a really amazing first thing. It all just came together at the right time.
Dope.
Yeah.
But you weren't acting full time in LA, were you? Or were you pursuing acting as a like your sole career for a while in Los
Yeah.
Angeles?
So in 2010, I moved out here and I just hit the ground. And I,
Okay.
on every site I needed to, I started doing independent theater. I started doing, which by the way, if indie theater in LA, at least back then, I don't know what it is like these days. I think it's maybe expanded a bit, but back then it was like you were performing air conditioners leaking on your head. And like, it's like you're in some warehouse in Burbank sometimes. Like, it was great because there were all these young
Mhm.
people out there trying to be creative and bring people together, and it was a beautiful thing. And it was
Yeah.
like it felt bohemian for sure at times, which was awesome because that's not something you really think about, in this day and age in a city like LA. This isn't the 60s in New York.
LA doesn't have like a huge theater scene either, which is wild to me because that's where, a lot of the actors are. You would think that the theater scene was a little bit bigger, but
It does not,
Chicago and LA have those. And then,
but it has
yeah,
expanded a bit.
or Chicago, New York. I meant Chicago, New York.
Yeah, I think over the years it's expanded. If you want it, you can find it if
Yeah.
that's your objective. But yeah, so those early years were a lot of hustling, running around. I had a buddy who we went to middle school and high school in New York together, and he has been acting since he was a kid, and he's fairly successful, and I remember him telling me several months in, he was like, "Man, I thought you were just going to move out here and like go to the beach and smoke weed." He was like, "I can't believe it. Like you're hustling around. Like just keep doing that."
He didn't have much
No
faith in
one,
you.
yeah, well, I think it was like everyone else who had come out here over the years got, they weren't serious.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying. They didn't understand the discipline behind things. Probably, a lot of people move out to LA, they want to be famous, famous director, famous this, famous that. It's not always about the work or the art.
Well,
Um,
I think a lot of times, and I know I've been guilty of this too, when something's not easy to begin with, it's hard to stick with it. So
yes,
making it in LA is just as difficult as making it in New York. So
100%. And how many
yeah.
artists are also neurodivergent and have ADHD and stuff anyway?
Yep. For sure.
So, but yeah, I mean those it's funny looking back. I didn't have a lot of money. Even after, I had to start working for real, piecing together things, I started tutoring. It was a natural fit. But I just remember, people would tell me how much money they needed every month to survive. And I was like, what? I need like a quarter of that. I don't need like, where are you living? What are you doing?
I'm still living like that. I don't really need a whole lot to survive, so I'm at least thankful for that.
You kept it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But I would like to make a lot more.
I bought a $15 bottle of coconut milk at the farmer's market yesterday. So
Mm.
things
You got
changed.
a baby coming. You're gonna have to.
Gotta roll back my addiction to coconut milk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so that was LA, and I was focused and I was writing with friends in our spare time. We started shooting some things, shot like a web series pilot about New Yorkers who were now in LA, and one guy became very LA and one guy stayed very New York, and they had this falling out, and we were going to keep doing it, but the other star um, booked Shameless or something, and he
Oh wow.
went on into his great part of his career. And I had a bunch of experiences like that with writing and producing with people where people would blow up, and we would be like, yeah. And so it was a great experience, but it was all about the acting and the writing for a long time. And so I sort of transitioned out of a more stable situation into this world, which gave me the ability to, with less anxiety and desperation. I was never desperate. I was like, oh, I could go teach again if I had to.
Yeah, you had that to fall back on.
I had that. And then it shifted again in 2018. And I went down to Cuba with my dad. I took him down to Cuba, and I'd had a really successful year of that last year of like work, like a lot of commercial stuff, some other things,
Mhm.
short films, some independent films, and it's like, oh, things are going great. And I had transitioned into coaching, which we'll talk about more. And I got in the water in this beach that was like the most beautiful water I've ever been in. And I just had this insane experience where everything in my life sort of got reorganized and I had clarity. And I was like, acting, I guess that's just for fun, because you don't have a lot of opportunity, except for maybe auditions. If you're lucky,
Mhm.
creatively, you can exercise that writing. And in terms of purpose, it didn't feel like purpose to me anymore. And so
Nice.
I shifted more into my coaching with very kind of serious clarity that this is how right now I'm going to be affecting positivity and bringing my juices forward. And everything found its place. And it really
Ooh,
helped.
what do you think about the Cuban water did that to you?
Well, maybe because they have more restrictions environmentally. I don't,
Oh,
it was pure.
I love that. I love an epiphany moment in a beautiful space.
Oh, it was
Probably
beautiful.
just had the time to think about everything.
The first day we went to this beach, I got in the water and I started weeping out of nowhere.
Wow.
And the second day, the next morning, we went back and I dunked my head in. I came. I'm not Christian. I'm not very religious. I'm spiritual, but like, got in that water and I was like, oh my God, I get it. Like, I see what's going on for me.
Mm,
And very easy to lose it and forget. You come back in your environment and you get wrapped up, and then you have to remind yourself, you got to meditate or do whatever you do. But that's so I started transitioning out a little bit. And then over the years, I've had other experiences where it's been reminders. Well, wait, where are you supposed to be focusing your
mm,
energy?
nice. I love that. I love that so much. The waters of Cuba made you realize that you wanted to do more. So how did you start building your coaching business?
So when I moved out here, um, I was doing, little gigs for a friend who was a caterer. I knew her growing up in New York, and finding, I think we had family friends out here in Venice, and I was tutoring their son. He was like 11 years old, and doing the things that people do. You're just trying to make ends meet. And when the unemployment ended, I had to get a tutoring job. I had to find something. Tutoring was easy because I'd been teaching. So I started tutoring. I started teaching SATs stuff. I learned how to do that. I found myself with a company that focused on academic management.
He's doing air quotes.
I'm doing air quotes. Essentially, like, there are wealthy people who just want you to handle everything when it
Mm,
comes to the school situation of their kids. Not all parents are like that, but some are. And so, you are sort of the person there figuring everything out grade wise. What are they supposed to be doing? How are they supposed to be talking to their teachers? All of it. And then on top of that, this company also specialized in working with kids with executive functioning skill issues. So kids with ADHD who are disorganized, bad with time management, that type of stuff.
okay. Dyslexia, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
sometimes
Yeah.
dyslexia, absolutely, different processing speed, delays.
Okay.
And one day, a mom wanted me to come into this therapy session with a psychologist who had placed her son in a therapeutic boarding school a few years before. And this kid had been going to this woman for a long time. And I sat in on this session with him, and it was great. She was awesome, and I loved kind of seeing what she was doing with the kid. And apparently she loved seeing how I was relating to the kid, to my client, to our
Nice.
joint client. So a couple weeks later, I get a call from this tutoring company, and they're like, we've had a request for you. And so I get to Manhattan Beach and I'm sitting with this family, and they're like, well, Dr. Danny Levine, recommended us to you. She's blah, 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 blah. So I ended up sitting in with this kid and the psychologist one day. And then I get this phone call, and it's just like, listen, I need you. What you are doing, you're coaching this kid, you're life coaching this kid. And my immediate reaction was like, "Ugh, life coach."
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a lot of people's reactions to life coach.
Oh yeah. And then like this is like 2000 and I want to say like 15, 14, 15 or something like that. So like this is now life coaching. Everybody has heard the term, whether they think it's silly or not. But back then
Mhm.
it was definitely newer. And
Yeah.
I am definitely a New Yorker. And I heard that and I just was like, uh, mentoring? And she was like, no, 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 no. The money is in the term life coaching. I had to get comfortable with that. It wasn't a comfortable thing for me until I realized that I had life coaches my entire childhood and my adulthood. They just were friends of the family, or, it wasn't, I had the access to people around me who could provide me that focused mentorship
The guidance.
and the guidance, and not
Hmm.
everybody does. And so very quickly, she kind of brought me into this world and mentored me. She coached me into how to work with therapists and psychologists and families. And because I'd been a teacher and I'd been working with young people for decades, it was very easy for me, I guess you could say. Um, it felt like when I was teaching, let me put it this way. When I was teaching, I loved working with the kids. I loved communicating with them. Honestly, it was a lot of performance. You're in the front of the classroom, and I was
Hmm.
very active and animated. And that's why they liked me, I think, because, you know, I wasn't like the Ferris Bueller teacher at the pool.
Yeah, you'd be a cool teacher.
Anybody? I was just being myself. But the real powerful experiences that I had were one-on-one when, a student came to me and was talking to me because she was cutting herself. And then I helped her feel comfortable talking to the school social worker. And at the end of the year, she like gave me her blade in an envelope with a thank you note.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, like
That's
very
amazing.
powerful experiences where I had either through the work that we were doing, um, or through these one-on-one experiences, I realized that I could affect these kids. And also, it wasn't my job exactly, but there's no way around it when you're a teacher.
Mm.
You are so many different things at the same time. Um, so that was what I realized I really loved about teaching. And what I didn't love were the hours. I didn't love the politics, hated the politics.
Yeah.
And and all the things that get in the way, and you learn it very quickly, of kids finding passion in learning, um, and the experience of being in a place every day where they get to be in groups and learn and evolve and grow together. They don't think of it that way consciously because it's like, ugh. It's not,
Yeah.
oh my God, I get to go to school and do something that, before 100 years ago, only kings and, princes got to go do. It's like,
Hmm.
and I hated that. I just, as much as I did my best to try to make it a better experience for kids, I wasn't enjoying it. So the coaching thing was great because it was just like me and this kid, and then me and their parents, and me acting as a bridge sometimes and helping their parents gain new perspective and helping these teens get perspectives about their parents. Like, yo, your parents are a real person. They got shit to
Yeah.
worry about too. Like,
They were your age at some point.
not just mom is there for me.
Yeah.
Mom has some hopes and dreams she's trying to execute too outside of you, hopefully. Can you see that? And so the coaching piece just fit. And the best part was there were less restrictions than in a school because I could be real with the kid and I could offer anecdotes about my life experiences that they then said, oh man, this person's keeping it real. They're actually sharing with me who they are. They're not just sitting in an office saying, uh-huh, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
It just took off.
That's amazing. Did you have to take any extra like certifications or classes or like any kind of like business training to be able to build your own thing?
So one, coaching is not a regulated industry, which is problematic in some ways. There are plenty of people out there that are like, I'm a life coach now. And there's plenty of people that are life coaches that act like they are trained therapists and psychologists, and they screw people up. and there's a line, and you have to know how to balance that line because there is some blurred areas.
Mhm.
When you work with, in conjunction with therapists and psychologists, is a lot easier because they kind of help you. You're an extension of them on the ground in some ways. But when it's just you, you have to be very careful. But no, so there are certification programs out there. In fact, there's a million now, but it's not
Mhm.
regulated. You don't need it for anything. And quite frankly, you and I could start a life coach certification program right now if we wanted to. We're not,
Side hustle.
yeah, right. New side hustle. And so that is a part of the industry that I think gives some people pause and should. Um,
Yeah.
for me, I started in this world with young people. And because I was a licensed certified teacher and I had a master's degree in education and decades of experience, it was an easier transition for me. Right.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of credibility already too, because
Yeah.
you've done that training and that work.
And I work with professionals. I learn. I'm an active learner. In the last decade, I've become far more trauma informed, in terms of how I approach working with my clients and their parents and my understanding of the dynamics. And I probably, you can pick that up over time, but you have to be an active learner, just like if you were a teacher.
Mhm.
To constantly do professional development if you're going to be on top of things. So you don't need the certification. There is no license. It's optional. I have
Got it.
had moments where I've kind of considered it to see like what would this do for the business. I've considered going back to school, for to become a therapist. I know therapists who mostly do life coaching at this point. And I
Mhm.
talked to an old mentor of mine once, and I was like, "What do you think about this?" She's like, "Do you want to be a therapist?" I was like, "Not really." She's like, "Don't do that." Like you're already doing it. Like you're good. Like you don't want to have to do that and all the hundreds of hours, of interning that you're not even interested in that. There's no reason to. So I think we've moved into a period of time where it doesn't matter as much because you could get a certified coach and they could be disastrous.
Yeah. Are you still working with the therapist in conjunction with the therapist?
Oh, all the time. I get
Yeah.
referrals. I send people to wellness company centers for inpatient, outpatient. I have plenty of clients that are with therapists that I know, and we kind of we refer back and forth, and I check in. So when I have clients, whether they're adults or they're kids, oftentimes we sign releases so that their therapist can get in touch with me and
Okay.
start sharing information to better support them. So yeah, I mean it all started that way, and because it worked, um, I didn't really need to go outside of my own internal push to become better at what I do. Um, and then little by little, that you're working with parents mostly,
Mhm.
so it's transitioned into working with adults as well from there.
That was my next question, like, how, because you work primarily with teens, how did you decide to start adding adult, what would you call, clients
Yeah,
to your roster?
it's
They're not patients,
they're
but
not patients. No, 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 no.
yeah.
No, they're clients. And um, when you're working with young people, you have to work with their parents. Because even if a young person becomes conscious of a pattern and they're like, you know what, I want to change this, but the environment that they're in stays the same, it's very
Mhm.
hard for them to change it. And the environment is set by their parents, and behavior is modeled by their parents. And willingness to do self-examination and willingness to grow and change, that's all modeled by their parents.
Yeah.
And parents will be like, yo, here's my kid, fix him, fix her. You're like,
Doesn't work that way.
that way. So I had to, over the years, start pivoting more and more towards doing more work with the whole family and doing, I call it the home team, doing work with the home team and really making sure everyone is always on the same page and everyone has work to do. So you go through all these experiences with adults and you realize most of the time you're coaching the adults. and you're coaching them in the most sensitive area of their life, which means other parts of their life are easy in comparison.
Mm.
And so little by little, it just started to shift. Um, and then the other piece was just, the more work I was doing with ADHD clients, and it just naturally, adults started finding their way to me as well. Because that's a big thing now. Like adult ADHD is
Yeah.
rise. The cell phones are creating it. Instagram Reels, all those things. All of our
Oh, I'm about to delete all of it. I already delete our company move is no longer on Instagram. We moved over to Blue Sky. I'll just be posting
how's the
on
air
Blue
over there?
Sky. The air's fine. I was never a Twitter fan, so it's a learning curve for me, but because I'm not as interested in in it, I'm not checking it all day long like I am Instagram. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
I see it in the kids, and like that's where I really see it. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then I look around and I'm seeing the adults.
You see so many people like this with
Yeah.
their heads down.
Yeah. So, that's a big adult ADHD is a huge thing right now.
Mhm.
Older people that are discovering lifelong patterns that have been shaped by this thing they didn't even know they had. And what I found is that the knowledge of it, the acceptance of it, has created a desire to learn more and to really truly like take hold. Or as one of my clients who's 65 likes to say, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful experience for me. And I find that I'm often moved and motivated and inspired by these adults, sometimes even more than the kids, because it's so much harder to make these shifts as you get older.
Yeah, we're stuck in our ways and it's really difficult to change. Um, so you've started taking on clients that don't have children, that are adults that are looking to make career changes, looking for a
Yes,
second act.
absolutely. So some are looking to get, like I was saying, get a hold of their executive functioning issues. And then others, this started happening more around the time of COVID because so many adults had to start questioning what their situation was, right? So it started
Mhm.
with friends who were having crisis, were in crisis with their workplace situations. Honestly, many women who were hitting sort of their wall when it came to their male bosses and their situations, and navigating how to communicate what they needed and advocate for themselves, and then also look to, is this where I want to be? Is this how I want my life to look like? And so a lot of that coaching ended up being, how do you help someone clarify what they want and what they need for themselves, and
Yeah.
accept it's not here. Great. Now what? Right?
Yeah, I love the, on your website, purpose is everything. It's where people find true value and self-worth. It's where people can find peace and motivation. It's the first stop on the way to achieving our personal potential. Like the capital P's there.
The capital.
The
Yes.
capital P's, your personal potential. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes, I mean, we all have parents that a lot of them did what they had to do, or they did
Mhm.
what they were sort of told to do, and my dad called work the plantation. Oh,
Wow.
I didn't love his job. And
Yeah.
he was a NYU film student. Like he graduated from Tisch decades ago,
Wow.
just ended up finding his way into other work. But, I looked at that experience and I was like, I don't want that to be me. And that's part of what kind of pushed me away from teaching full time, was recognizing like, oh, it shouldn't feel this way. So over the years, that's the clarity that came, was purpose. Like, what is purpose? And I was telling you, as I was taking in the Cuban waters,
Mm.
um, purpose was the word that kept coming up for me. And I found like, okay, wait, you've been helping people in some capacity. That's been part of what you've been doing your entire adult life. And even before you were an adult, there's something there. So why are you pushing into the arts? And I had to clarify, for myself, I loved acting. I had so much fun acting when I was a kid. I had
Mhm.
fun acting when I moved out here. In college, I had fun acting. I felt very at peace on the stage or in front of a camera or, at Second City or wherever I was, in Hollywood and I didn't care. It was just like, okay. And you can absolutely affect
Yeah,
people in powerful ways with art. Like there's no
for
doubt
sure.
about that. But when? I just was like, when am I affecting people powerfully through art? Like when am I getting the opportunity regularly to do that? Right? Like I'm not Denzel Washington. I'm not making movies every day that I could choose to do that. Um, it didn't make sense. I didn't feel passion and purpose there. And I realized I did when I was working with people and trying to help them level up, right?
Nice.
Figure out where they wanted to go. So that's where the purpose thing came from. And I realized like purpose, if purpose is at the heart of everything you're doing, everything else is so much easier. It's so much easier. So I reoriented everything and shift everything in my thinking. And then my actions were the thing that came after that, right? So it's like, oh, it's been years. I have no website. Or, oh, why am I never networking with people that are in this? Why I never pushed for clients. They just kind of fell in my lap, which is
Mhm.
great. But like acting, there's ups and downs, and you want things to be
Right.
consistent. I got
Yeah.
a business coach. I had a consultation with a business coach, and he gave me this whole thing. He's like, "Man, you don't have a business. You got a really good side hustle." And I was like, "Oh, snap! You're right. I have a side hustle." And so, no, no one taught me the business of the business that I had to start learning, which is the hardest thing I felt for me.
What were your challenges to get that to become a business?
Oh my God. I mean, the thing is, when things just fall into place for you, like people were just sending me clients, then a parent would tell another parent. All of a sudden, a school would email me because some point person at a school heard about me, and all these things were so easy until like COVID came, and everything got thrown up in the air. And then all of a sudden, I had to learn. Okay, how do you find clients? Like, how do you put yourself out there in a way where um, yeah. And also the business of like knowing your worth, knowing what to
Mhm.
charge, right? Not feeling any imposter syndrome ever, seeping up in you. I don't come from people who had businesses,
Me neither.
so
Yeah.
you don't think about those things. You're worried.
Mhm.
And if you're not in a really good financial place, you start worrying about, okay, well, maybe I should charge less so that I can at least do the job instead of charging what I'm worth.
That imposter syndrome is prolific.
It is, and
Yeah.
the thing is, who was it that said something to me? Someone said something to me once, a friend of mine. I was in a situation and she was like, I just want to remind you that you might not realize it, but you're a better communicator than, 80%, who knows how many percent of the people out there. You need to take that. So think about that when you're interacting with them or,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
Because it's easy to you doesn't mean it's easy to other people. I
Right.
think a lot of people need to realize that when things come easy to them, that's a gift that you have that not everyone has or
Totally.
knows how to cultivate. So having patience with other people who aren't as good at it as you are is
That was
important.
her point, I think. And
Mhm.
the other side of that was, oh, I'm really good at communication. Oh yeah.
You
It
got
was
the
twofold.
compliment.
It was a humbling piece there and a learning piece. And then the other piece was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm good at this. I'm really good at communicating with young people. I mean, like it's sort of things were getting really clarified for me. Um, and then it helped me clarify what my approach was and how I could communicate that to people. It helped me clarify, um, where I was going to put my time and energy in terms of like marketing versus networking, versus whatever. So I started, blind emails to therapists and psychologists and learning specialists. And, I took initiative during COVID when no one was working. And people were like, oh my God, thank you for reaching out. I'm feeling so isolated because all of our clients are gone. And so I started building networks that way.
Nice.
Right. But again, I think the conflict of COVID, just like any conflict, can really push you to step your game up and find new ways to maneuver. And I had to learn that from scratch because honestly, I was really lucky. Whatever I was doing, whatever my skills were it was perfect timing with the people around me, and it was just working for me.
Well, and then you had more people available to actually come to you and probably work with you over Zoom or
It took a while.
yeah.
I think I lost like almost all my, I lost like 7 clients in a week.
Oh, really?
A lot of parents were like, yeah, we don't want to do online, or
Like they're doing enough online.
they were going to be doing stuff online. So it took a long time. And then there was the other side of it, which is there became a point where things were going so poorly for families that the referrals started picking up again because it was
Okay.
a stressful time.
Yeah.
But the business part is tough, and you have to kind of you have to pivot. You have to learn how to be okay with pivoting and being flexible. And the beautiful part of that was, especially with working with families, that's parenting,
Right.
right? You have to learn to be flexible. And so everything sort of, it made sense and I was able to do it. But yeah, there was a huge shift for me, and more I saw that happening. I got back a little more serious about acting again. And then 2 falls ago, I called my agent, or I was back in New York for some family stuff. And I got back to town and my agent was like, hey, are you back? Because, the strike was still going on,
Mm.
but it was at the end. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. I just got back. I totally forgot to let you know. It's been a stressful time. And they're like, no, that's cool. But are you ready for auditions? Because we can't send you out to auditions if you're not going to show up right now. There's too few. But if you want to take a few extra weeks, that's cool. I was like, you know what? I would love to take a few extra weeks. Got a big client I got to wrap up. They're like, okay, great. Well, it's a revolving door. We're going to drop you off the roster, but just let us know. And I was like, cool.
Like that wasn't a stressful thing for you.
I called my manager. I was like, hey, dude, like, honestly, like, I can't, I don't care right now. I'm focused on my business. I was like, I had this epiphany. My mom was sick and she was having an operation, and we're having these beautiful conversations. And I was like, I'd like a family one day. Like the way I've been living, I don't want the roller coaster.
Mm.
And the only way I can see the roller coaster easing up a little bit is if I again reorient my focus more towards my business and my purpose. I lost my way a little bit again. So I told my managers, like, listen, if you have the best audition ever, I'll do it. Because for me, it would be like a great way to exercise the muscles and have fun. And I was like, other than that, like, I need some time. And that was it. I just like reoriented away again. I focused. And the moment I focused, I got a call from a psychologist, that first woman who started me in this work. I hadn't talked to her in at least a year. And she was like, I need you 5 days a week, several hours a day at your full rate. And I was just like, I literally, I, wa- I didn't know what to
That's like a
I, I was like,
That's amazing.
I'll be out of debt in like this many months. I was like, and again, things were finally starting to come back for me, COVID wise, because this is
Mhm.
now 2023. So it's like just really starting with the town, and but then of course there's a strike. So it was like this beautiful thing again, where whenever I planted myself in my purpose, I saw huge things happen,
The opportunities came.
opportunities connected to my business.
Wow.
That was a huge one for me. And it was a reinforcement. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm talking about a lot of stuff, but in terms of like changing careers or trying to figure out how you're going to pivot away from this industry, which is so notoriously inconsistent.
Yeah.
There's so many skills that one develops when they are working in front of or behind the camera or whatever, any part of the
Mhm.
entertainment industry. And those skills are applicable to many other professions, industries, etc. That is not the issue. The issue is, I believe, where do you feel your purpose lies? So, what is truly at the heart of you? What do you actually care about? And how do you join that up with something that you are interested in? Because the professions we choose, I believe, are vehicles. They're not the actual, you weren't meant to be a lawyer.
No.
Meant to be a lawyer. No, but there might be some skills or some things you can do through being a lawyer that you've always cared about. Maybe you grew up and you felt like, you were criticized all the time, constantly criticized, and you felt it was unjust. And justice became the core part of your personality. You wanted justice for people, right? And you became
Mm,
a lawyer. Well, that's a great vehicle to try to bring forth justice into this world, as an example. But you know what? That same person could have become a political writer, could
right.
become a politician. There's a million different paths. So a lot of my work with adults is trying to drill down into what actually makes them tick. We do a lot of identity work together to really see across the board. Believe it or not, the same things seem to pop up across people's full identity, right? Their social
Mm,
identity, their personal identity, the different parts of them. And you try to help people if they don't already, because sometimes they do, have clarity on like their most authentic, deepest selves, what they care about, right? And allow that to lead us to their purpose. And I do think, like what you were saying, my quote, if you are living in your purpose, you have an opportunity to fully live out your personal potential that's unique to you
right.
personally, not like what the outside world says is your potential.
Right. So when should someone reach out to a coach? Like I feel like you've definitely explained what the benefit of coming to you would be. But what
I didn't mean to. It could be any coach.
yes, yes, yes. No, I know, I know. Folks that are looking to make a career change in the film industry, struggling to figure out what the hell it is we should do.
Right.
I know
Okay.
I'm in this boat. I'm not asking you to do a full free session or anything like that. We will talk offline for my own personal needs. What kind of research should they do into what kind of coach they should get? Like, when should one reach out to a coach? And what would be the benefit of reaching out to a coach when you're hitting that point?
Yeah, I think when you hit a wall and you're really unclear on how to get to a goal, if your goal is I want to have a life that looks like this, and I have no idea how to get there, and I have no idea who to talk to. I don't have people ahead of me on that path, or it's not clear even what the path is. I mean, for people in the creative fields,
Mm,
if this is what you feel like you were meant to do, if everything just falls in, is coming out for you in positivity around this, no matter how hard things are, great, right? I can only speak as an actor and a writer, like it's not about the money. So anyone who came here trying to make it about the money, they're in for, a rough road. So that's
right.
the first thing I think. It's like if you're already living your purpose, if that's clear to you, great. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm living my purpose, but I don't know how to survive while I'm living my purpose. I should be able to. So that's one scenario, right?
Right.
How do I how do I make ends meet? Right? How do I find something else that I can maybe juggle at the same time that I care about, that I can bridge these skills over and still make money? For me, it was built in because I'd been a teacher before and I enjoyed working with kids and I learned to enjoy working with families. So it was a natural, side hustle for a long time for me,
Mm,
right? And there's I can tell you for actors because they are good communicators. If I put many actors in touch with tutoring companies because all of a sudden you're making like 50, $60 an hour and you don't have to be on your feet all day long waiting tables or bartending until 3 o'clock in the morning. That's an amazing, job opportunity for a little side hustle. But yes, so there's one avenue, which is you know what you want to do and you're doing it, but you need more money.
Yes.
How do we, like, me, please, hands up.
Hello.
Yeah. So that's one scenario, right? Where
Mhm.
we're trying to figure out where are natural relocations for you, where you can branch out. And of course, time matters because they have to be flexible situations, right? If you
Right.
stay in the industry. And then there are people that are just like, yo, this ain't me,
Mm.
right? Like I've been doing this for decades and my head's kind of down. I don't even realize that maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I've grown out of this. Maybe what's more important to me is not that next job. It's figuring out how do I build a life where I could even have a family,
Yeah.
could afford a house, not in LA, but somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nobody can afford a house in LA
You know.
anymore.
So that's another scenario. And I think that's, I know a lot of this podcast is about that. It's so scary.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I know me personally, I love what I do, but I also just need stability. There's no stability, and I know that I would prefer the hardest thing is letting go of it's a cool job.
Mm.
Like, people are always like, "This is oh, that's really cool. Like, tell me more."
It makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
situations, especially the last few years, COVID, the writer's strike, the actor's strike. I mean, it just goes on and on.
I luckily was on a show that I adored, Deli Boys on Hulu, everybody watch it.
Hey.
But, that show was such a joy to work on, and if everything was like that, I would never leave. But not everything is like that. So,
Yes, and it never will be, right, in any
no.
profession. But but
No, no, no.
but the inconsistency component along with those ups and downs, those other pieces, that's what makes it such a hard lifestyle. I always feel like people don't understand us, and they think people in the industry are all like making so much money and this and that.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't even think about the people behind the camera half the time, you know.
No.
And it's like, no, like there are people who've been working in this industry for decades and haven't worked in a year and a half, and they've got
Yeah.
mortgages or maybe they just have credit card debt.
Yeah. Well, we were used to living a pretty comfortable life that has now become less comfortable or not sustainable at all. So,
Right. But the thing about it is, especially for people like you who worked behind the camera in production, those are high stress, high stakes situations. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of moving pieces, right? There's a lot of egos,
mm.
on and on and on and on.
Well, especially in camera, if we can't get the camera working, we that's everything.
Right.
So, yeah.
When you are working in those situations, you have skills that you can bring pretty much anywhere. Just for the ability to deal with all of that stress and responsibility and the quick turnarounds. And I mean, you know, people that have worked in that world for a long time, they're
Mm,
equipped for many different types of situations. The question is just what makes you tick? Like what's at the core of why you even found purpose and passion in what you were doing in the first place? Because that
right.
exists somewhere else.
So, in a session with you, what kind of things do you lay out? Like, what's the, for lack of a better word, curriculum that you would put forth for someone coming to you for a life coaching session?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing is the why, trying to really get down to the why, which sometimes is not as simple as someone thinks, right?
Mhm.
Um, we are trying to look at if this isn't what you want to do, what do you want to do? Like, what do you think you want to do? As I mentioned, some people already know the direction they want to go, but they're not clear on how to build clear steps to get there. And by the way, there's going to be people listening to this podcast going to be like, that's ridiculous. You just do this, then you do this, then you do this. And it's like, okay, we'll tell that to someone with severe ADHD.
Well, but that's also what we talked about with the communication earlier of like, just because you're good at laying out steps does not mean that everyone is good at laying out what are the next steps.
100%. And then some people have real emotional blockage, right? There's comfort in the discomfort.
Yeah.
and change is scary. So, the first piece of this is helping people clarify, where are these feelings coming from? What's at the root of it? Where are they thinking about going? What's at the root of that? How to get there, right? And getting really clear and breaking things up into really small steps that we can help them execute weekly, right? And then there's people that have no idea, right? And that is where that deep dive into identity and experience comes in. Because ideally, what we're trying to do is help them find places across their identity where the same themes keep popping up of what's important and what's sort of at the core of their personality
Mm,
being. And that's where you find you can really clarify purpose, right? And as I said before, the vehicle to executing that purpose, it really doesn't matter. Hopefully, it's something that you really love to do anyway, right? And you really
right.
enjoy and you're really interested in. But it's what's behind that, what the actual energy is, that's what matters the most. Then the vehicle, choose your own adventure, right? Uh,
Nice.
I've been very impacted by, I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not a very religious guy, but I've been in LA 15 years, so I've been to Agape more than once. And the Reverend Michael Beckwith often talks about everybody being very unique individuals who have never been seen before on this planet. This specific amalgamation that makes you is
Yeah.
completely unique and original. And you are your own unique way of sort of allowing the universe to express itself through you. And hey, it sounds great, right? But on a practical level, that's where I see sort of purpose coming into to play. Because if you feel truly at one with what you're doing and like this is what I'm like great at this, I care about this, it means a lot, this idea, and then you can
Mm,
find a vehicle to bring it forward, I really do believe you have a better chance of reaching whatever that special potential is that you were supposed to express. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to help clients do, whether they're transitioning to new like places in their lives or new professions, or whether they're teenagers who, are struggling with their families. Um, there's so much blockage in all of us, the expectations of the world around us, the shame that comes. I mean, I'll be honest with you, like there are times where I've kept the acting going just because I didn't want to be a quitter.
yeah, I think that's the hardest part for people wanting to leave the industry too, feeling that like if you leave that it beat you, that you failed in some way. And I think being able to talk to someone about those feelings and then also reframing it and like, "That's I served the time." Like, the
Yeah.
time has served me well, and
Life is
it's just time to
long.
move on. Yeah.
Life is long. Like if this is where you're supposed to be right now, wonderful. But it's like being in a marriage where you don't want to end it because you just like, but this is what I do, right? Or you don't want to end, or even if you don't want to end it because you don't want to, the other person, like, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to be able to move on and
Mm,
be with someone who actually wants to be with them. There's liberation there, right?
yeah.
You're done with the marriage and you've put all the work in and you've done whatever you can and it's time to move on. What a great period of your life. And now you have more life and it doesn't have to look the same way. And that's a tough one, I think, for us all to kind of cope with sometimes. But
Yeah.
this
Endings are beginnings, not failures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
It's so hard for people. We get so comfortable and we feel safe even when things aren't safe. So I love my work. People come to me, I think, because they realize they don't want to be in unsafe situations anymore. They don't want to be unhappy. They want to transform. And I'm not the catalyst of their transformation. I'm just trying to help clarify and guide them along their own journey. to transforming and hopefully, getting to that place where they're living their personal potential.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanna add?
Well, one of the things that I have learned over the last several years, um, my fiance is a trauma-informed life coach as well, and she's also an opera singer, so we sort of parallel each other really well. But the trauma-informed piece has come to me just in the last several years, and it's something that I've really prioritized. Artists often have intense trauma in their
Mm,
background, and sometimes it's what makes them such good artists. And oftentimes, hopefully, they're working through it in therapy or they've, been reading or whatever, they're meditating. But that trauma can come up a lot when when we're talking about leaving their profession.
right,
Moving
right.
to something new is scary, especially if there's any kind of trauma surrounding it. And that's where the failure piece came up that we were talking about, this idea that I'm
Mhm,
a failure if I don't want to keep going, if
right,
I don't hit a specific, level, or whatever it is. And it's sad because, listen, first of all, at every level, somebody's like, I wish I was at a higher level in this industry,
for sure.
right? I mean, the grass is so much greener everywhere else. It's really sad. Uh,
Yeah, the crew I used to work with is all just did the halftime show yesterday on Super Bowl, and they did the Eras Tour, and it's like, I would love to still be on that crew.
and people on that crew are like, but I'm not doing this. Ugh.
Right, I'm sure,
I mean, it's like it's that is one thing about the industry and every part behind the screen, in front of the screen, it is hard to stay grateful. Right. And then like I said, all of these other pieces for some people can come up that are rooted deeply in their past. And I think that's one part of being a coach, one space that I've really evolved forward in. I mean, I've literally taken my partner's course so that I could like truly understand. I've read a million books. I've sort of worked with therapists to understand it better. And I've seen
mm,
how it plays out in young people, in elderly people, with clients that are older. Uh, so I would say anybody who is at a place where they're really questioning what it is that they were meant to do, what it is that they want to do, trying to figure out why they're even feeling these things. There's so much more there than just the reality of the moment of that specific industry or whether or not you're working enough or not. There's so many things that could be packed in there. However you do it, do it. Therapy, reading, journaling, meditating, yoga, coaching, doing, inner child work, whatever. It's important because if you don't understand the why, it's you're never gonna get past it cleanly. So that's the one thing that the trauma piece, it's taken me
mhm,
a long time to learn that it's part of all of us in some way, shape, or form.
right,
I'm from New York, people just push through,
right,
and it's nah. And honestly, only moving to LA gave me the space to start doing that work to understand myself better. So I say, no matter where you start, if you're really like, I gotta figure, I don't know, great. Like, start doing the work on yourself. Really get clear on yourself, who you are, like why you feel the way you do, why you're ready to move, why you don't know, whatever. And
mhm,
that will open up so much.
awesome.
And stigmas, pff, come on, stigmas. At this day and age, let me tell you something. In this
In this
world,
economy?
we ain't got time for that. Like,
I love that. Daisun Cohn-Williams, thank you so much for being on the company move. I've learned so much talking to you, and I hope that our listeners have too.
oh, I hope you did. I talked way too much.
No, 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 no. The point of a podcast is to talk. Decent, where can we find you?
Yeah, day one life coaching .com. I am still on Instagram, same handle. Um, uh, TikTok. I think I got a TikTok. But really hit me up through my website. I do free consultations and I love working with people in the industry. and I often give discounts because I know what that experience is like. But yeah, I'm just trying to help people survive and be happy. Let's go.
Awesome. All right, let's go. We'll put all that information in the show notes for y'all. And yeah, thanks for listening to the company move. Thank you so much, company movers, for listening. This is a little something different for you today. I absolutely love this conversation with Daisun. He's a friend of an old friend who I now consider my friend. And I've always found him to be inspiring. And if any of you know me, I love East Coast directness. Please tell me like it is, even if it hurts. That's Jason. He was about to be a new dad when we chatted, and he and his partner in the thick of it now with the cutest baby boy. So, congrats, Jason. Being a dad looks good on you, man. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Company Move is produced by me, Rennie Pollock, and is produced and edited by Robin Lavecchio. Special thanks to Selena Persiani-Shell for designing our graphics. Our theme music was written by Cliff Beach and performed by Cliff Beach and Alex Nestor. You can follow Cliff on Spotify or check out his website at cliffbeachmusic.com. Our interstitial music was composed and performed by Gabe Rosen. If you have questions, suggestions, or want to be a guest, you can email us at companymovepod@gmail.com. We're moving away from Meta, so no more Insta, but follow us on Blue Sky by searching for Company Move Pod. Please follow and rate us on whatever platform you listen to us on. And if you like us, please leave us a review. It helps for listeners to find us. That's a wrap for this week. Thanks for listening. Come on back next week for a new episode of The Company Move.